Alright, so now let's look at the financing operations through issuing. What is a bond? It's an interest-bearing note. So if I buy a company bond, I'm going to get paid for the bond, paid back for the value of the bond, and I'm also going to get interest for giving the company my money when I bought the bond. So interest is paid on a regular basis. So if I buy a bond for $100,000 from Apple, I'm going to get $100,000 back from Apple at some point, plus I might get 6% interest paid semi-annually. The face value must be repaid at maturity. So the $100,000 bond I bought from Apple today, and maybe that bond matures in 5 years. So in 5 years they have to pay me back the $100,000, and then over that 5 years I'm going to get interest on top of that. And then a bond indenture is a contract between the company issuing the bonds and the bondholder. And then typically when a company has a bond issue, they want to sell bonds, it's usually divided into a lot of different bonds. So if I want to do a $100,000 bond issue, typically I would issue 100 bonds at $1,000 each versus one bond at $100,000. So the bond issue price is the price the bondholder buyers are willing to pay. So three things impact that. The face amount of the bond that's due at the maturity date. So if you have a bond, $100,000 bond in 5 years, you get $100,000 in 5 years. And then the periodic interest. So this is called the contract or the coupon rate. So if it's a 5% interest, 6% interest, that impacts the price that the bondholder is willing to pay. Then the market rate of interest is another factor. So if the bond pays 5% interest, but you can go out into the market somewhere else and get 7% interest, well, then you're not getting as much interest off that bond as you could otherwise in the market. Therefore, you're willing to pay less for it. So let's take a look at issuing some bonds. So we're going to issue $100,000 of 6% 5-year bonds with interest of $3,000 payable semi-annually. The market rate of interest at the time the bonds are issued is 6%. So we're paying 6%, the market's paying 6%, so the bond, it's the same. So to actually record, we're the company, we're issuing a bond, so we're selling a bond. So we sold it, we're getting paid cash for $100,000, and now we have a liability called bonds payable for $100,000 because we have to pay that $100,000 back to the people at the end of 5 years. In our statement of cash flows, this goes under financing activities for issuing bonds. So another next transaction is the semi-annual interest we pay on June 30th. So it's a 6% bond we pay semi-annually, and the coupon rate of the bond, you see 6%, that's annual. So we have to convert the 6% annual to semi-annual, which is twice per year, so we multiply it by 1/2. So 100,000 times 6% times 1/2, we have to pay $3,000. So we're going to pay our bondholders $3,000, so we reduce cash by $3,000, and we recognize $3,000 of interest expense on our income statement, which reduces retained earnings. And now we go to the future to when we actually pay the bond back, the face value. So we're going to reduce cash by $100,000 because cash is going out the door. We're going to reduce bonds payable by $100,000 because we're paying it back, we're fulfilling our obligation. And on our statement of cash flows, we're going to reduce cash by $100,000. So bonds not issued at face value. So you can have a discount on bonds payable. So this is where the market rate's greater than the contract rate. So if we have a $100,000 bond we want to issue at 5%, but the market rate of interest, they can go earn 8% somewhere else, we're going to have to sell that $100,000 bonds for less than $100,000. So we're going to have to offer a discount. So somebody's going to give us $95,000, let's just say, for a bond that has $100,000 face value. So it's a discount. So when they can earn, when buyers can earn more interest somewhere else than buying your bonds, they're going to pay less than the face value for the bond. They're going to want a discount. A premium is where we're giving more interest than they can get elsewhere in the market. So if we're issuing a 8% bond and they can only go get 6% elsewhere in the market, well, we're giving them more interest than they can get elsewhere. So we can sell it for a premium. We can sell it for more than face value. So we can sell that $100,000 bond for $105,000, for instance.